Buenas noches, everyone. I hope everybody's doing well, blessed, and enjoying family. As always, muchas gracias to everyone for everyone's words, wishes, prayers, as the love and support everyone shares with me. From the heart, gracias. Also, do please like, share, subscribe, and hype the video. Thank you. Well, everyone, before getting into what I want to touch on today, I want to first apologize for not being able to drop in sooner, right? But due to my heart and the thrombosis, I ended up basically tied into machines for getting my breathing regulated. Be acting up here and there, and I think just the chemo over pushed it this time, right? But anyways, thank you God, I'm still here, and hopefully I can make sense of this, right? On this one, I want to touch on something that for some reason I've been asked a good 5, 6 times, right? I don't know due to what or what, but basically, if I could touch on cyco from Northside Pasadena, right? The Billy that at once took out China Boy Arias or China Boy from Marta, right? But anyways, on this I'm gonna take you back. I was in Corcoran, so it was 2003 plus, right? And basically, right there in Corcoran, if you guys remember in the beginning of my story, I mentioned Casper from Northside Basa that we were in up north, right, in that big riot that led us down south towards Onward. But anyways, the homie was there on under a riot, nothing big, just a riot that kicked off, and basically you're around things, you get picked up, you stay quiet, you get a little shoe turn, right? But anyways, the homie was about to parole, and as I'm in Corcoran, right, I was there supporting Artie, and there was a lot of conflict. It was with a lot of different Pilis, right? But on this one, I want to concentrate on Terco and Toñito from Wilmas. Basically, they wanted a piece of Kern, and you know, Artie had taken it from Terco per se, and then Toñito was trying to get up in there too. But just to touch a little further on Toñito, that fool was a politicker. You know, he didn't care not one bit about where he got in, which camaradas he hurt, even the ones underneath them. He was just one of them individuals that all he seek was power, control, at all costs. But anyways, staying on track, right? At this time, me and Casper were in A yard. We're not in the same block, but we're in A yard, right? And on A yard, you tend to see a lot of camaradas. For example, you go out to medical or law library or whatever, you tend to see camaradas, right? And in that riot Casper was in, he got hit with a blood gun to the point where it it caused some damage to his arm, right? If I'm not mistaken, the left one. But anyways, so we would tend to see each other because me personally, it was the way to touch with B yard at the time, right? Either our medical homies came down from B yard, we seen each other, and exchange on my pills, whatever, them type of things. So I stayed in medical or law library. But anyways, at the time, the homies telling me, that his Billy is gonna hit the streets around the same time he is. And me personally, I didn't know about cyco, right? And let me clarify. At this time, he wasn't going by cyco. You know, he was going by his name, Joe, from Northside Pasadena. And this is way before that Chino incident, right? Basically, the first time he got out, and he was telling me basically that his neighborhood was starting, excuse me, to fuel or have, you know, we're bumping heads with Toñito's crew. Cause yes, Toñito was out there too, had a crew, and he didn't really care, right? Where he was at, if there was no Pili there, he didn't wait to find out if it was a Pili's area, or he could actually talk to whoever's area it is, get permission. None of that, right? He would literally get up in there and try to take control. And basically, according to Casper, Joe or Psycho, he wanted to get out and control all Pasadena. So that's where they were bumping heads because Toñito's crew, as Toñito wasn't willing to give up the control of Pasadena, right? Because there was money. Okay, well, man, at the same time, there's a whole bunch of different things happening in Saint in Calipatria, and basically it was with Toñito as well, right? You see, Toñito wanted to take that yard from Medina. Medina was assigned to the yard. The only thing was that Medina had control of camaradas as paisanos, and he was a paisano himself, right? Or a lot of people know him as Escorpion, right? But Toñito wasn't having it per se. It was just his excuse to take control of somewhat of Calipat, right? He didn't want to, how do I say it, share. He wanted full control and give some wiggle room to Medina, and Medina ain't having it. For those that are aware of the big conflict that happened, is Medina not giving. Toñito had his crew whack him, and a big war uprose, right? And it was bad, right? To the point a lot of people lost their career behind it, because again, not only was old man Medina working for Fox, but also with Sherm, with few Peelies. He was like, right, and it got bad. It brought backlash to the camaradas that decided to move on him, and short time after, that whole mesa that moved on Medina was moved on, right? Anyways, getting back to Psycho, why this is relevant is because Psycho will end up paroling, right, from the feds. And, feeling some type of way per se, or don't know where his head was at. He wasn't in that stage that this is me, right? I don't care what you gotta say. You gotta rotate from the area. It belongs to me. There's a big difference between a federal pili having a prison yard in the state as a federal PD being entitled to his area. He has the same rights as a state PD in the street. And but what looked to be a big conflict between Northside Pasadena against Toño's crew out there in Pasadena and Dispensa. I don't recall right now the neighborhood that was under Toñito, right? But anyways, they ended up teaming up to some extent, right? And that's where Cyco started having problems, again as Joe, because he started butting his nose into Calipat and the issue with Medina, basically trying to support Toñito, right, with the yard, removing Medina and all that. And when it circled around and Toñito's crew got whacked and removed, then he sat down and played the dumb part, you know, basically kept pushing with Pasadena. Anyways, Casper eventually ended up paroling. He stayed in touch because he didn't know where his Speely was at. What I mean by that is he was freshly made, didn't know if he had the right angle when it came to work. So he wanted to get touched in case, you know, work needed to be put out there. And it's how we stood touch. Of course, keeping everything, you could say, out of Artie's ears, right? Because Artie he was definitely one of them real greedy individuals, right? He wanted a cut of anything. But anyways, when he got out, I know you guys are familiar with the story of how Joel was considered a rat. Well, you see, what happened is basically Toñito betrayed him, point blank, and it is what it is, right? Toñito betrayed him, and then he tried to say that it wasn't him, that it was his cruise chief out there in Pasadena, that they didn't want to relinquish whatever, even share. And how they betrayed him is through Casper. Casper was one of the biggest supporters of Cyco, right? When he got out, and they end up calling him out to a meeting to sort some things out. And again, we're communicating because, well, let's just say there was candy needed out there, right? So he was gonna go see what was offered from that angle of Toñito, and then we were gonna take it from there, right? See if maybe there's whatever soda, queso, chapopote, whatever that's there, and what else was needed, right? And it didn't work that way though. Toñito did one of them Toñito moves, right? Which is basically, he says he didn't, but I can guarantee you guys that he called a shot to start crippling Psycho or Joe right at the moment by taking out his soldados. So man, what was the homie's name? Man, disculpen, the homie. He's also from Pasadena, but under Toñito, right? He took the decision, and they lit up. They set up Casper. They lit him up. They didn't kill him. They killed the individual that was with Casper that night. And basically, once that starts, it's looked at from the Federicos as a conflict between state and feds, right? And they get up on there, and not only that, but they start talking to Winnies, and since Winnies see all this chaos happening on the street, what they want is peace, right? They want to be able to throw a little party. They don't want no responsibilities of what the causa is supposed to be, right? Even though they walk around with their chest puffed up, so they start snitching. Is how Cyco got rearrested, right? You could say for a violation, but in that arrest, he got sat down with detectives, and it's how they started questioning him about Casper. Casper took off. I'll be honest with you guys, and with due reason, because later on, again with the other Casper, I hope you guys are not confusing them with the Casper I was locked up in Mexico from Pasadena, right? Casper was hurt, you know. How being a Pili you're gonna send me in and not send protection with me, or at least once it happens, speak up for me, retaliate, right? They just gone. I'm representing you. They shoot me up. They kill the camarada next to me, and you don't act on it against that crew. You're allowed to keep working, and you keep trying to fix things with that crew and keep working when they're taking out your people, your soldados. So Casper took off. Where to? I don't know, right? This is the older Casper, the one I'm speaking on now. Anyways, when Joe got picked up, or Cycle, I know it's a little confusing, I apologize, is when he spoke too much. He basically explained to them, or through conversation, they okey doked him, right? And told everything about Casper, and individual got murdered, who they thought did it, and I don't know if you overseen it, whatever, or they pull it out of him so calmly that he didn't even notice. But as when he went back, and there was a certain push in Pasadena, the same individuals, he went against his own people to work, and took out his workers. Them same people were the ones pushing that he was a snitch, that he had spoken too much. That's when the change of placazos came. All of a sudden, it was Psycho from Northside Pasadena. And for those that are familiar, that's why at that time, right, everybody was saying Joe. A lot of people were saying Joe, Joe from Northside Pasadena. He told, or this Psycho is the same individual as Joe. There was a big messed up or misunderstanding there because of the change of names, right? And that's why he started getting paranoid. And that's what ended up leading what it led to, right? Him being so paranoid that he went ahead and read an appeal that wasn't addressed to him, at least for his eyes to read first. It was everything addressed towards him, right? And that's why he decided to take out China Boy from our Arta or Chivas, and he locked it up. But that's to answer the question that I got asked, right, through Instagram. Why was there so much confusion with Psycho? and a lot of people got the dates messed up. Cycle was made. He hit the street. Everybody in the feds were ready for a wars per se to happen because Toñito was encroaching in it, and what was his, he bended. Started working with Toñito. His soldado came out. Basically, if you want to look at it like that, Cyco knew the intentions of Toñito's crew. He still sent them and set them up, and then he just spoke too much. That's why, of course, he had that in his head, right? Again, if you don't fear nothing, if there's nothing there to hide, right? And that's where the confusion came, when everybody was addressing him at one point. Joe is the same individual as Psycho is because of the. He tried to cover it up in many ways, right? And in a sense, this took out three Pilis if you really think about it. Psycho, China Boy, and I think is one of the biggest reasons why Toñito got what he got. Because he was literally everywhere and didn't care what no other carnal said. Just think about it. Just when I'm speaking, he was in Pasadena. He was in Kern Valley trying to take control of the yard, trying to take control of Calipat. He was literally all over the place. It's just the way that cat was. But you see, we could touch things through the surface. But when we say he's trying to control, he was stepping off bounds, he was encroaching, whatever. People don't speak about the fallen ones. That's why I always say, don't fall into that pattern of feeling or getting lied to by a Billy that you work strictly for him. That's not how the causa works. The causa is you put yourself in this position for the clique as a whole. And not one Billy could say otherwise. You know, like I always say, be smart. I hope I was able to answer the question and put a message on there. If not, I apologize. I just, I'm trying, everyone. Trying to keep my word. Things are just a bit hectic, right? But that's not an excuse. Send my love and prayers. Stay true to yourself. Loyal to your loved ones.
This is so we always